F1 sprint shootout, whatever the FIA have come up with here, I don't know, but we're going to dive into it, we're going to look at it. And I'm not a fan of sprint weekends personally. Baku this week is a sprint weekend, and they've come up with a brand new format 3 days before the weekend starts. And yeah, I'm going to tell you why this new version is actually worse than the last one, because if we go into the new sprint weekend format, so obviously previously you had your practice one, then you had your qualifying, which set the grid for the sprint, and in the sprint set the race, set the grid for the race, right? Which I think is fair enough. It makes the sprint feel a bit important, and it makes qualifying feel important, because obviously if you fuck up qualifying, then the sprint's going to be bad, and then obviously you need to finish good in the sprint in order to start good in the race. But I think the problem with a sprint is it's just like you're doing like a third of a Grand Prix with no pit stops, and like, let's be real, if an F1 race dies down after the first couple of laps, it's not really going to get good again till the first round stops. That's always going to be a problem with a sprint. But for some reason, they've decided to do it like this. So you're going to kick off with practice on a Friday, then you're getting qualifying for Sunday's Grand Prix. So you're getting the qualifying on a Friday for the Grand Prix. Now, you're only getting one practice session, which I agree with. I would like practice to get limited. So, you know, I think it evens the field out personally. I feel like if you give like the top teams like the 3 sessions, like there's sometimes you see like practice one, even on Fridays, where like teams are struggling, and then like Mercedes, Ferrari, or whatever can find like, you know, half a second. And we've seen it this year, like Mercedes and Saudi were looking. Was it Saudi or was it Australia? I can't remember. No, they were looking good in Australia. I think it was actually Bahrain. You look at Bahrain, like Ferrari and Mercedes were looking nowhere, but then overnight they find time. Now here they're going to have to find the qualifying pace on the Friday. But as we move to the Saturday, you've got the sprint shootout, which is essentially, right, it's just qualifying. They can call it a sprint shootout, whatever way they want to describe it, right? But it's just Q1, Q2, and Q3. The only difference is you have to use the medium tyre in Q1 and Q2 of the sprint shootout, and then in Q3 you're allowed to use the soft. What? Like, what's going on there? To me, that's just retarded. Like, I get it, they're like, oh, let's have the fastest times in the last session. Now, again, yes, some cars are going to struggle with the medium tyre. Some cars are just better on softer rubber. That's the way it's going to work, right? But this cannot be the master plan here. It can't be. And then this sets the grid for the sprint later on the Saturday. So yes, it's technically giving you more meaningful sessions, right? So you're only getting one practice session, which, you know, there's no points awarded for. You're essentially getting 2 qualifyings for 2 races, like award points. But the sprint is just a race that gets 8 points now. You can get a maximum of 8 points, rather than here. This sets the grid for the big race on the Sunday. I don't know what they've went for. Stefano Domenicali, he couldn't run Ferrari and he can't run F1, right? This isn't F1. This is, I don't know what this is, but I can guarantee you when we get the interviews on Thursday of the drivers talking, and on Friday, they're not going to be a fan of this. I doubt very much of them will be a fan of this. It's stupid. It's pointless, man. Like, I know people can say practice is pointless, but it's been a part of F1 since the dawn of time. This stuff is just, I don't know, there's just something like cringy about it that they've forced in because of like new fans, and I'm not a fan of it. It's not F1. To be honest, it's not going to get changed. I wouldn't be surprised if this new sprint weekend format will be happening every round of the season and seasons to come. So anyway, guys, leave your thoughts down below. That's Fog Racing signing out. And again, like Red Bull's advantage this year, it means like when it comes to these sprint weekends, they're just gonna get more points. And say in the sprint, you know, Perez and Verstappen take each other out. It's not even a big deal. It's like, oh well, they'll just start 1-2 again, like because they qualified there Friday. Things like that need to be taken into consideration. But anyway, folks, till then, peace.